Hello human beings, PowerGamer here. You know, when I was younger I always thought I would start a band, but unfortunately I was born without rhythm skills. Thanks, Grandpa. So, I'm gonna need something that'll help me hone those abilities, and I have a strong feeling that that is gonna show up any minute now. Ah! Sorry about that. There, that's what I was waiting for.
Rhythmheaven, where a drummer goes when he follows the correct religion. A game that might not have been able to change the world, but it certainly did leave an impact on most of the people that played it, and as such, it is remembered fondly. But the discussion around it only seems to happen sporadically. Well, it's actually the second game in the series. The first one, titled Rhythm Tengoku, was released for the Game Boy Advance in 2006, but only in Japan. It originated from Nintendo producer Kazuyoshi Osawa creating a tech demo that allowed for players to play the drums using the system's buttons. In 2004, he proposed the idea of a rhythm game that didn't rely on visual indicators, but rather the actual beat of the song. Several developers ended up taking dance lessons to improve their sense of rhythm, and they were assisted by record producer Mitsuo Terada, aka Sunku, who composed the game's music. The game was an overall hit, so they quickly began working on a sequel for the next Nintendo handheld, the DS. Osawa wasn't a fan of the DS's button controls, so he decided to rely on the system's touchscreen instead. The team had to work out a lot of issues with the touchscreen's controls in order to make the game feel fair, but after several months of testing, they managed to get it right. Rhythmheaven was released for the DS on July 31st, 2008, and unlike its predecessor, it was given an international release. It came to North America on April 5th, 2009, Europe on May 1st, and Australia on June 4th. Like before, the game was a really big hit, getting fairly positive reception and managing to sell over 3 million copies. And the series would continue on for a couple more entries that were also given an international release. However, the original game is still region-locked, and even then, there hasn't been a new title in almost 10 years.
I've never played this game before, nor have I played any other games in the Rhythmheaven series, but I have seen some stuff about them online, and I think it looks pretty fun. So let's see what this whole music thing is all about. And yeah, I know I go in order when I look at a series, and this is technically a sequel, but the first game never left Japan, and I can't imagine it being that much different from this one, so I think I'm fine with skipping it.
When you start the game, you can pick a name for your save file, and these are really funny. After that, we get a tutorial where you have to use the stylus to flick a bunch of coins, and then the rest of the game opens up. Yeah, there's no story here, it's just a bunch of minigames. The game has you hold the DS on its side like a book, which is interesting, and all you need to do is tap and flick with the stylus. As you'd expect, this is a rhythm game, but it's much simpler than most other games of the genre. Most of them, like Dance Dance Revolution and Guitar Hero, force you to hit specific buttons at a specific time. In this game, though, all you have to do is tap and swipe. Honestly, I think this is a great way to simplify the experience, since half the challenge of other rhythm games is just making sure you hit the right buttons. But here, you only need to worry about getting the timing right. Sure, you have to make the correct motion, but most of the time that is not hard to do. But don't think that means this game is simple and easy, because it isn't. Instead of having a specific indicator of when to hit the button, you have to use context clues. Each of the minigames places you in some sort of scenario, like building robots or shooting things in a spaceship. In order to do these tasks correctly, you have to tap and flick the screen at the right moments. There's usually some sort of cue that you have to look for in order to do the action, but sometimes you just have to listen to the music to know what you're supposed to do. This game was released as part of the Touch Generations line of DS games, which were designed for more casual players, and some of the most popular titles like Brain Age were intended to help teach people skills. And this is no exception, as it really helps you improve your sense of rhythm, much more so than other games of the genre.
In most rhythm games, what you're doing is just as, if not more important as when you're doing it, but since Rhythmheaven only has 2 actions, it really can help you get more of a feel of keeping a beat, which isn't a huge life skill, but it can be helpful if you want to learn more about music.
But of course, this is more than just a glorified metronome. The art style of the game is really appealing. We get such a wide variety of scenarios you're placed in, and all of them look great. But you can't have a rhythm game without music, and Rhythmheaven has an absolutely killer soundtrack. All of the songs are completely original, and while most of them aren't very long, they are super fun to listen to. Which is great, because the songs themselves being really good makes you want to do better at the specific minigames. There's 50 minigames total, and they're split up into groups of 5. After each minigame, you're given some sort of ranking based on your performance. If you mess up, the game has some sort of visual indicator and usually plays a certain sound effect. However, a lot of them also have some half-point indicators where you come close to getting it, but not quite, and I honestly have no idea if these things count or not. I think it depends on the minigame. But anyways, there's 3 separate rankings: bad, okay, and superb, and you have to get at least an okay rank in order to unlock the next minigame and continue onwards. If you get bad, you have to try again, and the number of mistakes you get varies with each minigame. But thankfully, most of them only last a minute or 2, so it doesn't really take that long to try again, at least in the beginning. But getting superb, where you make few or even no mistakes, gives you a medal. Medals are thankfully not required to beat the game, but they do unlock some bonus features. In between minigames, you can go to the cafe, where you talk with the unseen barista to get some hints, and you can practice your tapping and flicking flicking. And by collecting enough medals, you unlock stuff in the medal corner where you can play high-score games, mess around with these little toys, and take guitar lessons where you can play songs in a different style. Randomly, the perfect icon will appear on minigames you have a medal in, and if you play it again without making a single mistake, you then get a perfect medal, which just serves as an extra collectible. Getting these allows you to listen to that song in the cafe without needing to play the minigame.
I think this game has a lot of charm to it, but if I had any issues, I think it could also be a little unforgiving.
I know the point of rhythm games is that they're strict on the timing, but I swear there were many times I did it right and it didn't count, or I did the wrong action for some reason. Not to mention, some of these games are really confusing and not exactly clear on what the timing is, or they don't give you an indication if you did something wrong, so you have no idea what you should be working on improving. You do get a practice before every minigame there to teach you the basics, but all of those use the exact same song, which is tremendously slowed down from the real ones. I mean, just to give you an example, here's what the practice is like. And here's the actual game. And nowhere is the difficulty more prevalent than in the remix stages. Every 5 minigames you have to perform a remix, which is a compilation of the 4 previous games, only they sometimes have a matching theme. This is a pretty cool idea, and some of these are really fun, but they are easily the most difficult ones in the game. They're more strict than the other minigames, they're a hell of a lot longer, and there's no warning when they switch, so you need to be on your A game and memorize which minigames come when. Otherwise, you're gonna be spending an absurd amount of time on these things.
I don't know, maybe I'm just really bad at rhythm games. Okay, I am, and pretty much everything else I do, but this game ended up being a lot harder than I originally thought it was going to be, to the point where I considered stopping a couple of times and just playing something else.
What are you doing here?
Why do you have a mustache?
Just leave.
Anything but that.
Now let's actually go over the minigames. The first one is built to scale, where these blocks will come together in the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do pattern, and when they reach fa, you want to flick this rod so it goes through the hole. And at one point it goes dark, a pretty solid introduction to the game's mechanics. After that is Glee Club, where you play as this little guy. You hold the stylus on the screen to close your mouth and lift to start singing. You need to continue the pattern, and when the conductor says together now, you flick. Fillbots has you fill these robots on a conveyor belt with some liquid. You hold most of them for 4 beats, the big ones for 8 beats, and you can't over or undershoot it. Honestly, the hardest part is not missing the entire robot. Fan Club, your monkey's cheering on a pop star. When she says the same thing 3 times, you tap 4 times, which doesn't make sense at all, and when she says, I suppose, you do this little clap and jump. Now we reach Remix 1, which, like I said, is a mashup of the other 4 games, and this one's pretty easy. It doesn't really have much of a theme. Rhythm Rally has you playing ping pong, and you need to match the beats, which change over the course of the song. Shoot 'em up, you're shooting invading aliens, and you have to tap the screen in the pattern they show up in. Again, the most difficult thing is just knowing when to start. Bluebirds is a weird one. You're a bird joining the army, and either peck your beak 3 times or hold and flick to stretch out your neck. This one really took me a while to get the hang of. Moai Do Whoop, yes, that's actually what it's called, is about 2 Moai statues singing a love ballad. All you have to do is repeat the pattern, which sounds simple, but you have to do this yell by tapping the screen quickly, and it doesn't always register the input very well. Remix 2 was tropical themed and a bit harder than Remix 1, but still pretty doable. Aside from this part, where I just could not get the timing right. Love lizards, this one stinks. You have to rub the touchscreen in the same pattern this lizard shakes its tail, because that's how these things mate. Yeah, it's weird and really confusing, especially in the remix levels, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Crop Stomp is ridiculously finicky. A farmer has to stomp and throw his turnips in a bag or get rid of these moles. The timing on the stomps is really specific, and missing the double beats is awful because the game counts that as 2 failures and not just 1. Freeze Frame is the worst of the standard minigames. You have to take pictures right as the racers come around, and you have to do it almost perfectly. It's insanely frustrating, really confusing, and a lot of the time doesn't match up with the music. The Dazzles is thankfully much better. It's just a bunch of pop girls, and you need to hold and flick at the right time. Really simple. But then Remix 3 is awful. It's a mashup of the most annoying minigames, and some of them are even worse. Not to mention, this is much longer than any other stage up to this point. It's infuriatingly picky.
No joke, I spent more time on Remix 3 than pretty much anything else in the game. And it's only level 15 out of 50.
Thankfully, things start to get better from here. Munchie Monk is a weird one, though. You play as a guy eating dumplings, which is apparently part of monk training. Did I mention this game was really weird? The monks place a dumpling in your hand and you smack it into your mouth, but the timing is really weird and not exactly clear, so get used to hitting yourself in the face a lot. DJ School is really easy. You just hold and then flick whenever the right cue comes up. Drummer Duel, you're beating this taiko drum, and like with the Moai, you just match the pattern. Love Lab, you're tossing beakers to make a love potion, because by shaking and throwing it, these hearts fuse together. Where do they come up with this stuff? Remix 4 is Love love-themed and a bit tricky, but thankfully much easier than Remix 3. Splashdown is kinda like Glee Club, only you're a synchronized swimmer and flick upward both alone and with everybody else. Big Rock Finish, you're a ghost in a rock band and have to strum 4 times whenever the cue comes up. Yeah, it's the same pattern every time, but the speed changes depending on the rhythm. And yes, this applies to the remixes too. Dog Ninja sounds like the title of a really awesome movie where you have to slash the vegetables by swiping up. All the things your parents force you to eat. Cucumbers, broccoli, tires, the works. Frog Hop is exhausting. You're a backup dancer and have to do the moves the main one tells you to do while also tapping along to the beat of the entire song. There's literally no time to breathe. You have to keep tapping for the whole thing. Remix 5, a few different themes and about the same difficulty as the other ones. Space Soccer, you have to kick the soccer ball and then flick to hit it with your toe at the right time. I know I said Freeze Frame is the worst minigame, but Lockstep is the most confusing. You tap with these guys to keep the beat. Sounds simple, but you have to switch to tapping on the offbeat, and maybe my brain is just dumb. Okay, it probably is, but I for the life of me could not follow how this worked, and even after beating it, I don't know what I did right. Rockers is another pattern repeat game, only this time you're playing an electric guitar, and this is the basis for those guitar lessons I mentioned earlier. Karate Man, or Kung Fu Dude, as some might want to call it, is a bunch of pots that come flying, and when a light bulb comes, it means the next one is a barrel that contains a bomb which needs to be swipe kicked. Remix 6 can be a little complicated, but you should get it after some practice. And then the credits roll, which has a minigame called Airboarder, where you jump and duck around these block things.
And if you're wondering why the credits roll here, it's because the remaining 20 minigames are all either harder versions of older ones or more remixes. So this marks the end of completely original minigames, which is a little disappointing, but yeah, I guess it could be worse. It could be something like...
Built to Scale 2, they just move faster and has more in the dark. The Dazzles 2 is faster and has a couple new patterns. Frog Hop 2 isn't much harder than the first one, but the song's now played with a saxophone instead of singing. Fan Club 2 has a double tap part, and the song is now twice as long since it has a second verse where instead of I suppose, it's wonderful. From this point on, the remixes are mashups of a bunch of games, and Remix 7, which is rock themed, goes through Fan Club, the Dazzles, DJ School, Frog Hop, and Big Rock Finish. Rhythm Rally 2 adds a super fast beat, and the camera spins around, which makes things harder to get the hang of. Filmbots 2 adds small robots, which take 2 beats, and it goes dark at one point. Bluebirds 2 is just harder and longer. Lockstep 2 is longer than the first one and just as confusing. Remix 8 is ninja themed as it goes through Rhythm Rally, Dog Ninja, Drummer Duel, Philbots, Lockstep, Freeze Frame, Karate Man, Munchie Monk, and Bluebirds. I say ninja themed because you might as well be a frickin' ninja to perfect this. It is so fast, and by the end it shifts into overdrive. Moai Doop 2 is just longer and a bit more complicated. Karate Man 2 is faster and has this really cheap ending where they throw one more at you. Glee Club 2 is in the dark and really unclear on what counts as a mistake or not. I was confident I did really well, only to fail 3 times in a row and then suddenly get a medal. Huh? Space Soccer 2, honestly not too different from the first one. Remix 9, the themes are done, and this one goes through Moai Doop, Space Soccer, Crop Stomp, Shoot 'em Up, Karate Man, Splashdown, and Built to Scale. This one's hard, but doable with some practice. We're in the last group. Shoot 'em Up 2 has more complicated patterns, mainly this double tap one. Splashdown 2 is just faster. Munchie Monk 2 is faster and in the circus for some reason. And Rockers 2 is the only time where you use any of the buttons. For these 2 chords and these 2 chords only, you need to press the R button to distort the sound. And now we reach the final level, Remix 10. It's a 4-minute long marathon of everything in the game. Some parts are only 1 or 2 notes, and some go on for quite a bit. You really need to practice this one and know which minigames are approaching so you know when to be ready. It's easily the hardest part of the entire game, but that just makes clearing it even more satisfying. And when you beat it, nothing happens, since you already saw the credits. But you are rewarded with a new mode, Battle of the Bands, which you can't actually play until you go through the guitar lessons, which you can't unlock unless you get a bunch of medals, which I think I'll pass on.
It's a pretty fun game. It does have its fair share of garbage, and half the mini-games being repeated is kind of weird, but overall, it's a pretty fun time. If you're looking to try out more rhythm games, I think this is a great place to start, and thankfully the first game in the series is significantly cheaper than some of the later ones. But for now, I'm pretty tired, so I think I'm just gonna kick back, relax, and maybe... What? Why is this game happening? On second thought, why would I play a different game? I've been meaning to go back to Ratchet & Clank for a while, so let's just play some Going Command. What the? Never mind. Let's find something else. How about, Spider-Man? Yeah, it's Spider-Man. I mean, come on, this game's classic. I mean, who the hell doesn't love... Ah! Okay, maybe that wasn't the best idea. Let's pick a different one. Oh, No More Heroes 2. Yeah, sure. That seems like a fun one to do. Ah! Okay, Switch game, yeah, that sounds easy, I don't know, Rocket League, yeah, Rocket League, this game's cool, I mean, who is love, what, how is that even possible? You know what, I don't want to play video games anymore, I think I'm just gonna go for a walk. This is nice. You know, sometimes it's good to just get out, get some fresh air, and not have to worry about that stupid kid. What the? How do I get back here? It's you. You're doing this. I know there's something in you. What do you want? No, I am not playing you. This is not happening. I just gotta get out of the box, that's all. Gotta get away. No, what? We're trying to get out! No, please! Why are you doing this to me? Please, just let me go! No, I swore I would never play you! You're the worst game ever made! Just gotta find a way